So Bernard, so far in your tenure as Chief Executive, you've already led a large strategic transformation to move the company towards net zero. Could you explain the change you have implemented and why you decided BP had to change? How has this process helped you become a more effective and inclusive leader?
Well, look, I think it's a great question, Peter, and there's a lot in it, of course. I think there are probably three reasons why we have decided to change, and we were talking with Her Royal Highness beforehand about the change. And there are three reasons really that drove our change. Number one, I think it's very evident to everybody that there is a finite carbon budget in this world, and it's a budget that's running out, and by definition it's running out quickly. So number one is an obvious fact. Number two is it's what society wants from us. And it's not just what society wants. Our 60,000 employees around the world are part of society, and it's what they want. And I used to say that you can't be a long-term, sustainable, successful company and go against the grain of society. But Andy Jassy of Amazon says it better. He says you can't defy gravity. And I think that's right. And right now, the world is on this path. And our job is not to tell the world how difficult it is, but to actually help the world get there. And that's what we're trying to do. That's the second reason. And the third reason is it's an enormous business opportunity. Trillions of dollars are going to get spent rewiring and replumbing the Earth's energy system. And we want to be part of that. And BP feels that after 112 years of being steeped in energy, that with all the skills that we have and the experience that we've had, we can actually help. So there are the three reasons. The lessons and the learnings are many and varied, but I would pick out two, Peter, that I think are relevant. The first is that it would have been very easy for BP to see the energy transition as a threat to our company, a risk that we somehow had to manage. We have turned that on its head and said, actually, it's an enormous opportunity for our company. And I have seen firsthand that when you think of a risk, you sort of crouch down, you get defensive, you see shadows everywhere, you see darkness. But actually, when you think about opportunity, the whole room lights up. You start to imagine, what if we could connect that with that? It changes the perspective. It sounds very simple, but for us, it's been very, very, very meaningful. And then the second one is being honest and being transparent. This is hard. Your Royal Highness was saying earlier, this is not an easy thing to do, and it is not. It is hard. But in being hard, we shouldn't somehow try to cover over those harsh realities, because nothing is hidden today. People know everything. And we have to be honest with each other about the realities. A reality today is that BP is an oil and gas company. We're a hydrocarbon company, and it is those hydrocarbons that will fuel our transition. Some people don't like to hear that. Some people want us to go out of business. Some people want us to stop. But I think being honest and being transparent about issues and being on the front foot of that, as Alan would coach me, is so much the right thing to do. So lots to do, but they're just a few of the insights.
Thanks, Bernard. I know that those of my staff listening will be smiling, because when we're faced with issues, they'll hear me say, problem, opportunity. Which way do you want to look at it?
It sounds simple, but it is surprisingly helpful. Now, are there risks to manage? Of course there are, and there are issues that we need to deal with, but it is a mindset.
It's a mindset. So you rightly show real optimism and confidence in BP's plans, but as you say, it's a very big challenge. What makes you think you can successfully transition BP, and has there been any impact of the pandemic on your plans?
Well, look, I think, you know, we're not a company that wants to in any way boast about our skills, because I don't think that's a particularly attractive thing to do. But equally, we must have confidence in our ability. And so I'll just say a few things about why we're confident, and I don't want to sound boastful, and it's got nothing to do with me, it's about the people who work in the company. We have been steeped in the energy markets of the world for 112 years. that brings with it something. We have thousands of engineers and scientists in countries all over the world. We operate in 70 countries around the world. We operate in the jungle in Indonesia. We operate in the desert in Oman. We operate in the deepest waters in America. We build massive projects. The projects that brings natural gas from Azerbaijan to Europe crosses 7 countries. It's a $40 billion project. BP, with its partners, helped do that. We actually have one of the largest trading organizations globally. So in no way to boast, but just to give people a sense of the skills that our people have, and we're so lucky to have them. And that is why we feel we have a role to play. The energy transition is complex, and actually with time, it becomes increasingly complex. It used to be one form of energy that dominated. It was coal, then it sort of became oil. But the energy system of today is multifaceted, and that's actually complex. And we actually love complexity, because actually that's where we add value. We can knit together these things to give people what they want. A hospital wants clean energy, it wants affordable energy, and it needs that energy to be reliable. So that's a little bit about what we're up to. In terms of the pandemic, again, maybe a lesson for me, but it would have been very easy last year to say, you know what, the pandemic has hit. Let's hit pause and actually and wait. And we didn't hit pause. We sort of cracked on, so to speak, and we launched a new purpose, a new ambition, a new strategy. We took the painful decision to cut the dividend in half. We restructured the company in the biggest reorganization in its history. And as we sit here today, the world has moved sort of more towards us than further away from us. America is back in the Paris Agreement. China has a net zero plan by 2060. Europe has the Green Deal or Fit for 55. The UK has the Prime Minister's Green Industrial Revolution plan, the 10-point plan. So I sit here and I'm so grateful because it's been so hard for our people to do all of this in the midst of a pandemic. But I'm so grateful that we did it because we're closer to the world than further away from the world. And if we hadn't done it then, it would all be ahead of us now. So sometimes it's better to grab the mantle and just keep going. And that's what we did. So we have a lot to do, Peter, a lot to do. But we've made a start.